Test. All right. Oh, I'm earlier than I thought. I just started the stream. We have 10 minutes before we begin. I thought I was going to be late. Jeez, I guess I did okay. I was cranking out a quick video this morning for Key. Key found a bug that none of us noticed. So I made a little video to show everybody. Yeah. Today we're going to see how to get extra fields into the database. So, like you've got some extra things you want to capture in your form there. So we're going to see how we can do that today. I had a coffee. I think I left it downstairs. I might go grab it. It might be vital. I was outside the Tim Hortons waiting for them to open this morning. So I feel like I should go and grab it. Yeah. Be right back. The stream is running, so don't murder anybody. You sound so disappointed.
It works fine on my home computer, and then I did a scan on it.
I'm just getting my coffee. I'll be right there.
I believe. Du tar
So I, so I.
All right.
Because everything else we got to figure out. Yes, it's there. We just need to fix it. We can just go through it. Are you meeting with the group after everything's done? I can try and start fixing batteries work first. Task. Try and fix the bottles.
Yeah, they have their set on it.
And then add the button to the control panel, so when you click it, it lowers. And another thing that you requested is to make the jump points a little bit sense.
Yes, yes. So,
And I know how to do it.
Oh, perfect,
I can
perfect.
Try and find like an element, just place it there, it's a jump point.
perfect, perfect. Perfect. So I think, can you do the hard drive after?
Great, and then we can just update the file.
Yeah. And copy or do whatever, and then the same thing I'm trying to do. I just think bottles are.
Yeah, we can figure out the bottles, we can figure out the batteries. The batteries are done.
Yeah.
Okay. The bottles, figure this out. Like I did with the battery.
Exactly, exactly. Do you want that with the,
Yes,
the
we
bottle,
can.
right? And then with the button,
Yes.
lower the custom, or whatever it is. Connect to me, they want to be able to turn into a sort of the dual thing. On and off. We can look at it together.
Okay, no, it's fine, it's fine.
Tell me what you want, and then tomorrow we can.
Yeah, I think today we can figure out most of the experience. The only thing that I think we can leave for later is the UI. Because the UI is there, like the base, but it doesn't look like it should. Just a matter of like making it look pretty.
Yeah, yeah, I can, whatever you want.
And changing the text on the credits, for example, because right now we don't have any text.
Yeah.
It's just like a placeholder.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. too.
Credits and instructions. So that's.
Yeah, I like that. So, for the thing for tomorrow.
Okay, so, no. Yeah, and I'll have an answer to write in some of the thoughts.
For tomorrow?
Yes.
So that's for tomorrow night, so I have to, switches and chunks and organize it, right? I can do that, and then, if you're around, in 2 weeks, if you want.
Okay.
do that.
No, I think we can.
I can come in early in the morning, whatever, you.
Sorry.
Sure, sure.
Just to fix things up.
Okay, anybody who's joining on the stream, we're just going to give a few more minutes. Hopefully, a few more people show up. It is early, it is gloomy. No one wants to wake up. I know I don't. But we are going to do something pretty useful today. So it'll be worth it. And that's what you're going to submit. We are up to Lab 10. Woo! Kind of a big deal. Lab 10 means that if you've been rocking out, you're basically already passed. You know what I mean? That's pretty awesome. So, woo! You too! Yeah!
Just one question.
Yeah, shoot.
Before we begin.
Yeah.
On the last assignment,
Uh-huh.
I forgot. I honestly forgot because I was watching the streaming and then it went down last week. For like
It did.
20
And so the link that's embedded in Leaflet is only like the first part of it. You have to go to the YouTube channel to find the rest of it if you're watching it again.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that was missing is to catch the error on the login.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think we did that in class.
Oh, okay. So
But
it's
we did it
required-
on the registration area, and the way it works is the same.
So you just copy the Firebase, when you go to on login the event, and then there's Firebase API, sign in with
Yep.
email and password, the state, and then you go catch,
Yes.
function, error, alert, error.
Yeah,
processing.
that's the ticket right there, is that catch. And then in your Firebase API, where you've got your sign in with email and password, you have to make sure there's a return at the beginning of it so that it will return any error that happens, which you do have, because I checked. It's there. So yeah, if you just put the dot catch in there, because the way that works is Firebase returns what they call a promise object, and promise has two functions always associated with it. One is called then, and the other is called catch. It'll put any errors in the catch, and then you can use if you want to chain another action onto the thing. So let's say you wanted to redirect them maybe after the sign-in completes. You could put it in a dot then and redirect them there. We haven't used the dot then, but we've used the dot catch. Oh. Team is working here. Test. Which is, quite important. Now that we've got that work, we have to think about what do we want to do with it. If you're signing people up, if your situation is maybe you're building their intranet, like their company resource and so forth. So let's talk a little bit about form design in general. And we'll talk about like completion rates on forms. So if you're just trying to get information from people and you're not trying to retain them, so let's say it's something like a contest, you're not really trying to get them to sign up, you're not trying to get them to register or anything like that, but you do need things from them because maybe you need to know where to send their prize to, things like that, then you'd probably put it all in one form, right? Because you don't necessarily want to break that up into steps. You want to try instead to make one step that's as simple as possible. Every little thing you add to a form, like every single field you add, will come with a percentage of drop-off. People will not complete it. So you're trying to gather as little as possible. That's actually really important. Now, if you're asking people to actually sign up to register to make a, like a long-term commitment, you probably can't ask for more than that in a single form, okay? So the example I'm going to show you today kind of breaks things up into 2 steps. If we're asking people to register, that's all we ask them for. But once we have them registered, we want to present a way that we can get the information that we want from them. It's like a little bit of a soft sell. You know, it's like a clever negotiation. I'll give you an example. There was a site called NetVibes. I think they're still around. For a while. They were like getting a lot of attention in the press because they were growing a pretty large membership. And they're one of the first examples I've seen of doing a really, really well done soft sell. So when you signed up with Netflix, well, Netflix does a good job of it too. NetVibes, they didn't ask for information from you, which was a little bit unusual. They just kind of give you this blank page, and then there were widgets that you could use. So the blank page, it's great to have it, you could customize it, but it's not too useful on its own. As you would start grabbing these widgets and dropping them onto the page, then it would ask you for information because it made sense then. So for instance, they had like a weather widget. So I could pull that weather widget onto my page, but then it would say, oh, what city do you live in? Well, now I don't really mind giving it because like I can see how they're going to use it. They're going to show me the weather for Toronto, you know? And in short order, by using a few of these widgets, you basically have given up all the information you would have never given up that information if they just asked for it up front. But now, bit by bit, they've got it. So this is a really, a much smarter way of doing information gathering from folks. So what we're going to create is a little system where we just ask for the registration. Once that's complete, then we're presenting a bit of additional information that we want. And we're going to make it optional. The person can always come back to this area and give us the information, right? We don't necessarily care when we get it. We just want to get it. So let's not have people, sacrifice registering just because they're nervous about giving a little bit of information. Let's let them register first. They get to see what we do. Then we ask it for them. Does that make sense, that strategy we're talking about here?
Building relationships.
That's it exactly, and it's a little different from the way we used to do it in the past. We used to try and get all that information at one time, but the technology has changed, and now we're more like building software than we are building websites, so we have to do it just a little bit differently. So that's what we're gonna do. So what have we got so far? Well, we have our app component at the top of the React application here. Inside of that is the hash router, and hash router determines what component is going to show on the screen. When the person goes to the settings area, we have this settings page component. Inside of that, we have our registration login component. And then on the side, we have this class we've made called the Firebase API. And it's not a component. It's more what we would call a proxy. It's a little helper class that's there to talk to Firebase for us. Now this guy is able to get the authentication. Imagine you can see something. It has information about the authentication. We're going to expand that a little bit so that the app also has information about the person's unique ID that is created. So before we do anything else, we'll jump into your Firebase dashboard. So you might want to log in there, and we'll take a look at what we're talking about, this term UID. Sounds good? All right, let me get my stuff started up here. We will dive in. We're not going to write a lot of code today, but it's like a lot of small steps that we have to do. And we will make one more additional little form. Okay, so let's start off in the Firebase console here. Here we can see all the people. Maybe I'm just going to kill that front light. Nope. Sorry. That's better. Okay, anybody joining us? We haven't done anything yet. We just talked about what we are going to do. We are going to create something today that will allow you to capture additional information about the user. So we've got the authentication working. Now we're going to use it. We're going to start asking them for what we really want. So the example I'm going to show today is just like a little nickname. The person will be able to choose a name for themselves. But if we get that working, adding any additional fields you want is a piece of cake. So you're going to want to log into your Firebase console. And in the authentication area, you can see all these people who have signed up for your application. Now we take a look at this field over here called the user UID. When a person registers, this is generated by Firebase. And every single one of these is completely unique. It's what we use to identify the actual person that has authenticated. This is really, really important because this is going to be used everywhere inside the database area. Let me go to my database and show you how I'm using it here. And this is straight out of the Firebase documentation. They recommend doing it this way. In the database, well, you can see there's my articles. There's some info for my home page. But down here, there's a new collection called users. And if you look carefully, you could probably guess what these are. Those are the unique IDs, right? One associated to each user. So for instance, in here, I've stored a username for this particular user, and he's chosen the name Elvis. You know what I mean? So that's what we're after. We want to be able to take information that we've gotten from those users and store it in the database inside the users collection here. So it's kind of a two-step process because first they have to register. If they haven't registered, we don't have one of these unique IDs. We'd have nothing to associate the information with that individual. So we're going to create a UI that once the authentication completes, will allow us to take additional information and store it in this kind of a format here. Does that make sense, this format here? Yeah, okay. So I'm actually going to delete that area out of my database here. And you'll see that the code we write allows us to just dynamically create this area. It's a little different from if you're working with something like a MySQL database. With those kind of databases, you need to know the schema ahead of time. And you have to generate the database using that schema. So you'd have to tell it to make an empty users table or something like that. But with these NoSQL databases, it doesn't really work that way. We just say, oh, I want to save this information. And if that collection hasn't been created yet, Firebase just makes it for us, So this is a lot more flexible because it means that you can kind of determine the schema using the front end. You don't have to be logging in and creating a schema on the back end here. So I love that because it means you can change things. You can change it whenever you need to. Very powerful idea, especially if you're dealing with clients that have a lot of changes. You know what I mean? Like they don't really understand when you tell them, okay, that little extra field you want to capture is going to take another 40 hours of development because we have to remake the database. They don't want to hear that. So when I discovered this, I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what we need because now I don't have to tell them that anymore. So let's take a look at an example here. I'm just going to take my Firebase console, pull it off to the right here, and I've got a little demo that we can take a look at what we are trying to do here. So this will look really familiar to you guys, but there is some additions here. Let me go and make a new user in here. So I'm going to say King Kong at Kong.com. There we go. King Kong has email now. It's very modern. There we go. And register. So up to this point is pretty much the same as what you guys have going on.
Do you want us to follow along with this?
No, I said this is my demo.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to show you what we're trying to build here, and then we'll go step by step. So here we go. So you can see the difference now, right? King Kong just registered. No change here yet, but now we've been automatically presented with a little extra UI here. So that's what I was saying. Like, I want to make it as stupid easy for King Kong to register as possible. He has very large fingers. Those little keyboards are difficult, right? So the point is, like, it's graduated because now that he's in there, he's made that commitment. He's already going to be much more inclined to participate now. So now I present him the next piece of information that I want. So in this case, just going to pick out a little username here. So this is an editable field. So he just like picks a username. He's Kong Man. There we go. Hits the update. See what happened in Firebase? That's what I was talking about. We didn't have to create this user's area ahead of time. Firebase figures it out. Like, all I've said is that this ID should have a username. And if I expand it down here, there he is, Kongman. And when Firebase sees that I want to store that information, it creates the path for me in order to do that. So all of our users that register now would have the ability to pick out a username. Pretty cool, right? So I know like Leonardo had some extra things he wanted to gather. Maybe it was like phone number or something like that.
Yep. First name, last name,
Yeah.
birthday, phone number.
Cool. So if we get this little username thing working, it'll be mostly copy and paste to gather whatever fields that you want. Now you'll have to set up validation stuff however it makes sense for your fields. HTML5 has pretty good built-in validation for things like email addresses, credit card numbers, things like that. So I don't think you'll have too much trouble on that. Of course, I don't really have validation on this because it's username. I pretty much let them do whatever they want with it. The only thing I might do is say like a minimum character count of like 1 character at least. So, all right. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's see how we do this. So go ahead and bring up your fork that you've created from the last lab. Don't forget, before we begin, submit it into Leaflet here. Let's see who's checking in. Cool, Sean's in there, Casey's there, Leonardo's there. I'll give you a second. Go ahead, guys. Oh, Patrick's in there. Did I see him? He must be online. Hey, Patrick, welcome. I saw a lot of improvement in this last lab. I saw a lot of people going back to improve their site, which is really good to see. You know, like this can be a really nice showpiece for you at this point. The tools that you have at your disposal, very good. Okay, I'll hide away the Firebase console here. And, oh, yep, come on. Let me just reload my professor mode session. All right. So I want you to head down to your Firebase API to begin with. Should be near the bottom. And I'll probably shrink a few of these classes because we don't we won't be working in the existing ones, just a couple of them. Okay, so here's my Firebase API methods. And specifically, I want you to go to the part where we start listening for changes in the authentication. So we're looking for this on-auth state changed. Head down into that area. Now you notice that we've got this little variable here called user, and we haven't done anything with it yet. The only thing we've done is look at if it exists, because the way Firebase works, when it triggers this authentication state change, if the person is logged in, like if they are authenticated, it gives us that information, and we're calling that user here. So basically, if that information exists, it means the person's logged in. If it doesn't exist, it means they're not. So that's how we figure out if they're authenticated. But we're going to look at what's available inside this user object right now, because there's actually quite a bit of useful information in there. So try this. Let's put a console log in here right after this user's authenticated. And let's just look at what's in user here. I'm going to give this a run. Okay, so we're watching for this user is authenticated. And then right after that, we see, hey, check it out. This nice little object. And if I expand it down, man, look at all this info. All of that comes inside this user object here. So we've got, you can see, for instance, the email is in there. So we see the king@kong.com. He's logged in right now. Look at this little one, email verified, right? So I won't have time during the semester to show you all the things that Firebase can do, but this is used for two-step authentication. So you know when you sign up and then you get an email and it says, oh, you must click here to verify your account, like CodePen does that. Firebase has built-in stuff for that, right? So if you do a little bit of research, if you go into the Firebase docs, you're going to see there's tons of really useful things that they will do for you like that. If you're using two-step verification, this becomes important, because now you'd be able to see if they have actually verified the account or not. So for instance, like if you don't verify your CodePen account, you can still do most of the stuff, but you can't post in the chat window. You know what I mean? Somebody hit that. I think Kosar hit that. Yeah, who hopefully is on the stream right now, because we're talking about her. You know, that's the kind of thing that you will be able to do, right? So there's that. Now the one that we're really interested down in here is the UID. You see that one? And look at this big long string here. If I copy that string, hey Julie, let's copy this string here. And if I bring up my Firebase console again, go back into the authentication, and I'll do a little search for that string. Boom! So you see how that works, right? That's identifying specifically King Kong. Yeah. So test it right now and see if you can see that little string in your console log. You got to get that, because everything else is depending on that. So right after my little user is authenticated message here. Now, of course, you've got to be logged in. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you won't get that user info, you know what I mean? So who's got that? Who can see it? Yeah. I'll give you guys another second. Because you pretty much need that to proceed with what we're doing next. It really is the key. Sometimes you hear it called a key for that reason. Yeah. So you want to be able to see this. I'm pretty sure everybody will be able to see that because all of the checks that I did showed that everybody had their authentication working. So, yeah.
That's kind of lost. I wish you checked.
What's that?
I wish I checked for the information you just mentioned.
Oh, I just did a little search with like a or Command F, Control F. Whatever is the built-in search. There, yeah. So plug your UID into there, and you should see if it is in there.
Here, right?
Bring up your code pen. Yeah, and bring up your console.
It's here.
There you go. So, you're not logged in. That's what I was mentioning. Yeah, if you're not logged in, you don't get any user info because it doesn't know you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm logged in.
Yeah. And have you got your console
I
open?
don't see that.
Okay, let's take a look. You want to throw it at me? Let's see what's up. Okay, let's check out authentication from Sean here. So I'll bring up my console. I'll just clear it out here. And we'll head on over to the login. I may be logged in already because I was looking at this last night. And it looks like I am logged in. Yeah. So I think you just haven't put in your console log yet, Sean. Well, let's take a look. We'll go to the Firebase API methods. There we go. And we're looking for the authentication change area. So right in here. Let me refresh the page. I may have cleared it when I cleared my console there. So I think you might be all right because this does look correct to me. Yeah, there you go. It's there, Sean. Yeah. Just make sure you're logged in. If you're not logged in, you won't see that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that is true. You would have to refresh because like that fires when the page first loads and it fires when you log in or out. So you'd either have to log in and out or refresh the page to get it showing. So if you expand this little object here, you're looking for UID. And you'll see this long string right here. And that should match up with one of the UIDs in your Firebase application. No. No. Just copy this. Go to your Firebase dashboard. Go to the authentication area where you see your users. And just do a little search for it. So I'm on Chrome and Windows, so for me it's Control F to bring up the little search field there. The main thing is that you can see, The main thing is that you can see it here, right? But if you just want to know what Firebase is doing, then you can go and do a little search and see if you can find your UID over there. But if you can see it here, you're good to go. Excellent. Just going to bring up my notes here, make sure I don't miss anything. Okay. Oh, okay. So go to your Firebase API and right into here, you can put a console log right here and just log the user. So I'll show you. So the only code we've written so far is right here. Yeah. And then in your console, you're going to look for a little object like this that's got a bunch of information in it for you. Now, you may have to save and refresh the page. Yeah.
Refresh.
Yeah. And let's see. Oh, but you're not logged in. So you'll have to log in.
I already logged.
I don't think so. Go back. Yeah, go to your pen. Because you see, you're not logged in. It says false. So you're going to have to log in. Yeah. Yeah. You logged in?
But it showed true, but I can't find the ID.
Okay. Do you want to send the link to me?
Yeah, sure.
We'll find that real fast. Is that a valid login you're using?
Which was as bad.
I don't know.
It looks like you're using a fake login. So that's not going to work.
Or the fake login.
Make a real account. Like this is a real login now. So it's not going to let you use any fake accounts or anything like that. So no. If it's not, use a real account. Either you have to make an account or use an existing real account. So here, Firebase won't let you fake it. So which one is it? This one? Yeah. So the only ones it's going to allow are these, you know? So if you know the password for one of these, you can log in with it. Otherwise, you'll have to register a new account. Yeah. It's real now. We can't fake it anymore. The security is in there, so. I'm not going to worry about that right now. No. Okay, Edwin, did you send me the link? All right, let's take a look. So we're looking for if the UID shows up. So I'll just mention right now, guys, like I'm only going to take questions about today's lesson, stuff that is still hanging around from the previous labs. Like you really should be asking questions in Leaflet. If you haven't got something working, that's kind of on you at this point because we've given feedback to everybody. So I don't think it will hold you up from doing today's lesson. If there's some kind of bug from your previous lesson, you'll just have to work on that. But if I don't stick with today's lesson, we'll never get through it. Yeah, Casey.
I just wanted to double check to make sure my question is about this lesson. If when I click it, it says the authentication isn't allowed in Firebase, is that?
If that's the case, then you have not got it turned on in Firebase. So let's take a look.
Do you want me to send you mine?
I won't be able to help you with that because it relies on your Fire. Keep it down, guys. Keep it down. I need to talk. So you'll need to go into your Firebase console. Go to your, let's see. go to authentication, sign in method, and make sure that email and password is enabled.
Okay, is that all that needs to be enabled?
Yes.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Yeah. After that, you're good. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So it knows that I'm not logged in right now. So let me head to the login area. And I'll make an account. So just a quick note on your testing from this point forward, guys. Like, this is fully working security now. So if you're using a bogus email or a weak password, it will stop you. If you're trying to log in with an account that doesn't exist, it will stop you. So you kind of have to use like real stuff at this point. You can use a fake email, but it has to be formatted properly.
Can you change, because when I was writing in the password, it was like, oh, it has to be 6 characters. But
Yeah.
can you change it so that it says that it has to have a capital letter, like all its.
No, that stuff is up to Firebase
Okay.
because Firebase is responsible for storing those. So they set the rules, basically.
Okay.
So they use kind of like a medium level security. Yeah. Maybe in the future they'll give us options for that, but currently they don't. All right, so I'm going to register King Kong with Edwin's site here. So register, and there you go. You see that object right there, Edwin? And inside of it, there's a UID right there. Yeah, so it is working. I think maybe you just aren't logged in. Yeah, you'll have to log in at your own site. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, let's take a quick look at Mark here. Okay, so here we go. Oh, you've got a typo in the word console, Mark. I see console right there. Do bring up the console, and you'll see that right away. So then let's go to your Firebase API methods right here. And let's see. Yeah, there you go. Just a little typo action there. Let's see. There we go. Now you got what you need. So I'm already logged in because I was looking at this yesterday. That should get you in good shape there, Mark. All right. Okay. So here's the goal, guys. The next thing we have to do is get that information about the user. Oh, you're welcome, Mark. We have to get that information about the user over into the app. So if we quickly consult our little handy dandy chart here, Firebase API is already getting information about the authentication state over into the app, but that's just a simple little Boolean. That's like a true or false. Now we've got more information that we need to get over here to the app. The reason why we need to get it over here is because we want to be able to send that information anywhere in our application. And the only way we can do that is if the information is at the top of the React component chain here. You know what I mean? Because we use props to send information into the components from the parent to the child. So we're going to get the user information up here at the app because let's say, for instance, we have something like a user nickname or something like that. Well, maybe we want to show that in several places, right? Like our menu bar up top, we want to change it so it says, "You're logged in, Bob," you know? And then inside of our components, like, "Buy this new pair of shoes, Bob." You know, we want to use it in different places. So we need to get that info like right up here. So there's two ways we can do it. How did we get the authentication info over here to the app? We did what we call like a pull method. So the Firebase API, we added to it this add listener. And when a change happens, it sends an event and says, "Hey, something has changed." Then it's up to the app to say, "Oh, something changed, give me this information. And the info it's asking for is like the login and the registration. So we call that a pull method because the person who hears that event has to ask for the info. So let's try another way. We'll try a push method. So this is where the Firebase API says, oh, I got this user info, here, you take it, and pushes it to the app. This is actually really easy to do. It's even easier than the first way that we did it. Push is always a little simpler. So let's see how we can do that. Right in here, you see where we're calling callback right here? Well, we've got empty parameters here. Why don't we take the user info and put it in there so that we can send that info to the listener? So plug your user info in there, and then we're going to head over to our app and receive that information. So let's go up to app. Because the app is the listener. And in here, specifically, it's the on-auth change that is the callback, that is the listener. So in here, I can receive the user information. But I want you to do one more thing in here. Something that is unique to ES6 JavaScript is that you can set a default value. So I'm going to say, make a default of just an empty object here. Now I'll tell you why I want you to add that default in there. To see why, we kind of have to go back to our Firebase API for a moment and look at that authentication again. You see, we're calling the callback twice here, right? Well, the first one, is the only time we actually have user info. If the person logs out, if they unauthenticate, well, we're still letting the app know, but we're not passing any information because we don't have any. So this could cause a bug for us if it's expecting an object. So what we do is we put an optional default property in here of just an empty object. Like an empty object is okay, but if it gets nothing at all, then it's going to throw a bug for us. Oh, it might help if I... Yeah, there we go. So do you see how that works? Like, if we pass a user object, it'll ignore this little equals here, and it'll use it. But if we don't pass anything to it, then it will say, oh, let me at least have an empty object to work with here. Yeah. So that'll be the difference between like an empty object and an undefined. Undefined is always going to throw a bug for us, so we don't want that. All right, let's test it. Let's throw another little console log in here. And maybe right here. And we'll see if it matches up. So let's log out the user right here. So this is our third step right here. We put the user in the callback. Then we received it in our auth change here. And now we're just going to look in it and see in the console if it matches. Let me give it a run. Give it a run. There we go. So we see that it saw that I'm logged in. It got the user info right here. Then it sent that to the app through the callback. And we can see that here it is. So that information has made its way all the way into our app now. You know what I mean? So this is coming from our Firebase API. This is coming from our app component. So we can see the information has gotten there. Make sure you got that.
should we see at the console?
You should see an object that is the same as the one that was received in the Firebase API. See how they both are the same here?
Mine is empty.
Ah, okay. Are you logged in?
I was.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's check it out.
Put her in the chat
Yeah, hit me.
in the chat box. One momento.
Throw it at me.
Okay.
Smack me with the code.
There you go.
All right, let's take a look at Nancy's here. There we go. Okay, there is something wrong here. Up here, I can see all the info, but by the time it makes it to your callback, it looks like it's empty here. In fact, it looks like it's using the null, or that default empty object, yeah. So that makes me think that I should check in the Firebase API and see if we're actually sending it. I must say, like, having our code nicely divided up in classes like this, it sure helps me. You know, if I had to look all over where this stuff is, oh my God, we could never get through all the feedback. So let's look in here and we are looking for the area where the auth changes happen. Ah, anybody sees it?
No.
Does Nancy see it?
The callback doesn't have a username?
True. Which one does have it?
Okay, the top one.
Haha! Down here, there is no user info, right? Because that's where they're logged out.
So it should be opposite.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's see.
But that little default that we put in there saved our bacon, right? Otherwise, we would have crashed right then.
Let's do this again.
So good news on that. Let me give that a run. It's working?
Okay, yeah.
Let me try it out here. There we go. Yep, that looks good. Nancy and I talked before class about setting up that demonstration of how the default worked. So good job, Nancy. Excellent, excellent. Good acting, too. What? Nobody? That was friggin' funny. Come on. Is this thing on? Okay, let's take a look at what Julie's got going on here. Bring up my console. And, oh, you know what? Maybe it's the same. Oh, no, wait, look here. Actually, this looks good, doesn't it? So there's the first one. Here's the second one. And yeah, you're good. Yeah, I can totally see it. So that looks okay. Great. Okay, so that information is over inside of app now. So what are we going to do with it? Well, it doesn't do us a whole lot of good just sitting inside of app. Why don't we start sending that information into the components that need it? Okay, I'm going to do a couple of things here. First off, I'm going to do a set state inside the app. Okay, now the reason why I'm doing that is because when you call set state and you put some information inside of it, that's you telling React, I want you to remember this information, and if it changes, I want to let all my children know about it, right? I'm going to refresh all their props if that changes. If you don't call set state, it won't do that. It doesn't know that you want to do that. So that's going to be our step one. So let's go back to our app. We'll go into the unauth change here. Ooh, whoa. Sorry. My touchpad's a little hyper, yeah. Here we go. Right, so we're logging the user, but we haven't told it to remember it anywhere yet, but this will be pretty simple. All we have to do is add it to this little set state we're doing here. So I'll say Remember the user. And just note that I put a little comma here. Yeah, you don't put a comma on the last one, but you have to put a comma on any ones before that. Now that's pretty simple. With that, we've now put it into the state, and we can make use of it. Once you've got that done, head on down to your render here, and let's set something up so we can pass that information along to our settings page. So right here in my line 262, here's our settings page. And we've set up this little technique that lets us give it some props right here in the router. We've already given it the logged in, we gave it the registered. Let's give it the user as well. So we're going to go user equals, and then you do your curly braces. Here, let me make a little more room here. And then we're going to go into the state and get that user that we just put in the state there. So you see how this is working, guys? The information started in the Firebase API. We sent it over to the app, which is at the top of this whole chain. And now the app can give that information to whoever it wants. So it's going to give it to the settings page component. We can confirm if that worked. Once you've got that in there, we'll put a little console log in our settings page just to test if it's getting there. So let's go to the settings page. Here we are. And it looks like we're already logging out the props. So technically, we should be able to test this right now. But let me put another little console log just so I can really see what's going on here. I misspelled dem. So let's see what's going on. I'm going to bring up my console. We'll do a little look around. Now, here's an important point that I wanted to mention about what we call the React lifecycle. So when I say the React lifecycle, it's all those React functions that we can put in our components. So remember how we've got constructor, we've got render, we've got component will mount. There's a few more we haven't used yet that you use once in a while. That whole life cycle doesn't begin until it absolutely has to, right? So when our page loads, you won't see anything from the settings page showing up in your console, not until you actually navigate to the settings page. That's when it comes to life. That's when the constructor begins and all those other things. So it's an important thing to think about. Qi, I hope I'm saying it right. Qi Zhang, you know, your friend. she did, I'm so sorry. I should know these names by now, but it's hard for me. She actually found a little bug related to that. I've made a little separate side video to show you guys, and we're pretty much all going to have to make a small update to our code. She found a way that you can actually log out and log in again without giving your password. Bad, right? Bad, bad. And it's related to this life cycle I'm talking about. The email and password that you entered the first time, unless you navigate away and come back, it's still in memory. And we didn't catch that. None of us caught it. So, you know, A+ for her. She nailed it on that one. And I'm going to show you a fix for that. So that's kind of why I'm taking this opportunity to talk about the life cycle. All right, let's test it. I'm going to navigate over to that area. Let me make sure this is saved. I'll give it a run. And let's see here. So I'm going to clear out this console here. I'll head over to my settings. Aha! Look at that, guys. It used to be just logged in, registered, but now I've got this third property, the user. Make sure you've got that. If you do, then you're all good up to this point. But you remember, like, again, you won't see that unless you're logged in. Because there's no user info if you're not logged in. Who can see it? Who's got it? You got it? You got it? Yeah, excellent. I'll give you one more minute there.
So we'll navigate out of that and then go back to the login page.
Now, do you guys see my little problem right here? This was your challenge this last week. I'm logged in. I see my log out button, but I'm still seeing these two buttons here. Bogus. It shouldn't be like that, right? Those should be gone. So I think maybe about half of people figured out the little trick to how to get those to disappear. The simplest way that I know of would be to take those two components and put them in the fields variable. So the same place where you've got your inputs right there, if we take those out and we put those in the same area, they'll only appear at the same time that those fields are there, right? I'll show you what I mean. Let me head to my login form for a moment. There's a couple different ways to do it. I saw that some people figured out they can put an if statement in and have an entirely different return in their render. That was pretty good. So I saw a variety of ways, but here's how I did it. So let me go to my register login form, and we'll catch this little thing while we're here. Here we go. So here's what I mean, guys. Let's look for where those buttons are. Right down here, register button, login button. So currently, every time this form loads, those are always going to show. But that's not what I want. So let me cut them out of here. And I'm going to head up to where the fields variable is being made. And I'm going to put it inside of there. Let's see. So maybe I'll put another div around this. Just like that. Because that will let me now put my components in here. You see what I mean, guys? I'm putting that wrapper div on the outside because components always want to have one element wrapping everything. And then all of these guys, they're now inside of that. So now fields becomes this whole thing, but if you're logged in, it replaces that with this little thing here. Okay, so let's see the result. Give it a run. And I'll head back to the login area here. Hey, better. You catch that? I know a lot of you guys already had that. Okay, so now we're in the settings page, and it has the user object in here. What's our next move? Well, settings page might want to remember that too. So we might be doing a set state in the settings page as well. Let me just quickly check my notes here. Make sure I don't miss anything. Okay. Okay, we're going to start working with this user info. Yeah.
My object show, my user show object instead of X. Is it correct? My console.
If I expand it with this little one here,
Yeah.
then inside it would show something like X or W or something like that.
Yeah. This is show objects here.
Yep, that's fine. It's because you're in Firefox.
Oh.
Yeah, Firefox will look slightly different in the console from here. You're all good. With Chrome, it gives me these little arrows and lets me expand it. Maybe if you double click it or something, it might expand. I'm not sure. Okay, in our settings page, we're going to start working with this user information here. So here's a little thing that I forgot to do in yesterday's class, and it actually caused me some grief later on in the class. In my settings page, the very first thing I should do is set a default value for the user. Here's what I mean. See how in initial state here, we've given a default value for the email and the password, right? So I need to do the same thing if I want to put the user information in the state. So I'll just make it an empty object. You see how this works, guys? Like, because it takes a second for it to talk to Firebase and get the user information, we have to give these empty default values all along the way. Otherwise, when the thing tries to render, it will look at the user object and it'll be undefined. Because for a split second, it hasn't arrived from Firebase yet. Right? So we have to at least give it an empty object.
So Tim, actually what you're doing is you're gathering this information after the user is logged in. In my case, what I wanted is actually to gather this information when they register.
That's not what we're doing. Because I'm saying that's bad design. So let's not do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
like,
if to do it that way, you would have a couple of steps to do.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to, like at the Firebase API, you'd have to check as soon as authentication happens, you'd have to load from the database to see if you already have that information or not. If you don't, then you would have to have a way of getting the info from your settings page component into the Firebase API, because it's not going to let you store anything until the authentication happens. Yeah. So if that was the case, like, you might consider not even doing registration for the site. If the goal is just to capture that information, why have them register? Because you could save them a step and just submit it directly into the database.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I could.
Yeah. It's. I was thinking about that when I was looking at yours there. Like, I'd be tempted to maybe separate registration and that form there, and maybe do.
Give me some more info.
Yeah, like do two different areas.
Like, yeah, I'll create this one and then I'll just
That's
transfer everything else.
that would be great. Yeah, give it a try with this method here, because I would have approached it probably differently if I want to get all of that information up front. All right, so here's what I've done, guys. I've given a little default value for the user here. Now that that's in there, we can start working safely with the user information. Let's see, what do we want to do first here? So right down here, I've only got a log out button. I actually want to have another little form field in here for capturing this user information that I want. So maybe we take a little break from that user object now that it's arrived where it should be, and make a separate little component just to get it on the screen here, and that will be our input area for the so that the person can pick a username. Sounds good? Yeah, Jim. Okay, then let's do it. let's just take a break from that, and we'll just make a simple little component here, and see if we can get it showing up. So let me shrink my settings page for a second. Boop. And I can even shrink my register form for the moment here. Shrink this button, make it a little easier to look at. Okay, let me make a new little what we call the dumb component. So those guys start with a const. And let's see, what did I call this? Yeah, this one I'm going to call the settings form. And this one is one of those simple components, so we just give it its props. And then we make our little arrow function, and boom, we're in there. Hey, Key? I said it right. Good, okay. I was singing your praises before you got here. We were talking about that little thing you found. I made a little separate video I'll show you guys so that we can all fix that situation with our login. Excellent work. Good job. Okay, so what do we want to do here? We're going to make a little return in here. And for now, let's just put a simple little div in here with maybe just like a little heading just to indicate what we're going to do. Okay, I want this little form that we're working on to appear at the same time that the little log out button appears here. So let's see if we can get it showing up on the screen. If we go into our login form and we find the area where that log out button is, so it's not up here because that's for people who aren't logged in yet. Right here, well, there's our button, right? So right above that button, let's put in our new little component here, our settings form. Let's see if it shows up. I'll give it a run. And I'm going to need to log in over here. And there we go. You see that? I'll be the username form. Pretty good so far. You know what? While I'm here, this little I will be the login form, I don't need that anymore, do I? That's kind of, that was just a little placeholder. So let me get rid of that. Whoa. There we go. Pretty interesting now, right? How that looks. All it is just one variable. This entire renderer here is now being created dynamically. That's pretty cool. So let me save that. Give it a quick little run. And there we go. Once you've got that appearing on the screen, we're free to make this like an actual little form here. So we're back to the settings form. So let's do it similar to how we did the login form. So I'm going to make a little fields variable here. Now you don't have to call it fields. You can call it anything you want, really. And inside of there, we'll make our little label, just like we did when we were creating the login area. But this time I'm going to ask for the username. And we'll put an input in here. This one is going to be type text. Now this property, name, this is going to be important later on. I'm going to call it username. Now as we continue, we'll see that, like similar to when we did the login area, we're going to use this name property all the way to Firebase, right? So whatever you call this, that's what it's going to be called when we save this information in Firebase. So make sure that you remember this. Let's see, what else do we need in there, guys? We've got the name, we've got the type, and we could put a little placeholder in here. Just like that. Now here's the thing about value. We could give this a value, but it's going to cause us problems as we go. Because technically, when I arrive here, that value should be coming from the database. You know what I mean? If I've already picked a name, then it should be showing me the name that I've picked and letting me edit it. But the first time I arrive, like when I've just registered, there is nothing in the database. So this is why I'm kind of preferring to use placeholder here. Now once the person types in there and they submit, well now we've got a value and we can send it to the database. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. I think this line is in pretty good shape. Let me make sure that I close my label. Like that. And then down here, let's put the fields in. There we go. This looks pretty solid to me. Now, of course, you can do whatever you want with this. If you want to make it something else, like phone number or whatever, then that's cool. But this was the simplest example I could think of. Let me give it a run. Give it a run. Go to the login. Boom. There we go. That's starting to look like a thing. What should we do next, guys? What's missing here? Yeah, exactly. We're going to need to do a few things, right? We're going to have to listen to changes inside of here. Pretty similar to what we did before. I feel like we should have a submit button, right? Now, like, it's up to you really, because like there's no reason you can't be actively storing this information in Firebase as the person's typing. If anybody is really keen to know how to do that, I can show it to you. It's pretty straightforward. But if we want to do it similar to what people are used to, maybe we should have a submit button on here. So let's do that. So let's see. Now we've got a couple of choices here. We could put our submit button right here in the settings form. The other way we could do it would be to put it in the login form beside where we have our log out button. So I think I'm going to do that. Let me put another button right here. So now I'm in the login form, and I looked for where my log out button was. I'm going to put it right beside there. So let me throw a little button on here. This one I'm going to call update. Now, so far, nothing's wired up, nothing's functional, but we're just getting it so that we can see it on the screen. Here, let me give that a run. Yeah, there we go. Now, while I'm here, why don't I just double check and make sure that I haven't broken anything? Let me try my log out. Boom. Yeah, that looks good. I'm going to log back in again. No. What was it? King Kong? At Kong.com, I think. Okay, no problem. We'll unbreak it. Yeah, there we go. So that all still seems to be working okay. So that's good. Who's broken? All right, let's check it out. You want to throw it in the chat there, Casey?
I did. It's, I can't log in anymore.
Okay. Did you see any kind of errors showing up?
But I don't know what it.
Oh, I see. So there might be a little syntax error here. Let's check it out. What does it think? Ah, okay. Aha. Now this line looks okay to me, but what that makes me think is like it might be a problem up above here, and it's just finding it when it gets down to here. So let's see what we got. The return, and there's the render. Oh, you know what's going on here, Casey? I think you've put this new component, the settings form, I think you've put it inside another component, right? Because when I click here, this is the closing of the render, but I don't see the closing of like the whole class. So I'm going to take your settings form. I'm going to chop it out of here. Yeah, see, it kind of got sandwiched in between the render and the load data. So let me move it out of here, because this has got to be its own component. So let's move it out of here. And so here's your login form. Maybe I'll put it right above your login form. Boom. Yeah, everything's fine. It's just in the wrong spot. Did you see what I did there?
Yes.
Okay.
Copy it and make sure.
All right. I'll keep this open for a second. If you don't get that, then we'll come back to it. Oh, we've got a couple more people here. Let's see what Julien's got going on. Julien joining us online today from sunny Jamaica. Who knows, right? She could be somewhere else in the world. All right, Julien, let's see. Looks like it's complaining about a syntax error. Ah, okay. Oh, you know what it is, Julien? I think you don't have a closing label here, right? Let's throw in a closing label element, or a tag, I should say, right there. I think that might do it. So we've got opening here, closing here, opening here, closing here. If I run it, hey, that's all it was. So just throw in your closing tag and you're all good. All right, and then let's see. Let's see what Julie's got going on here. Oh, really? That's interesting. Okay, let's check that out. So I'm going to the login area. Let's bring this up. This all looks pretty good. I'm not seeing any errors there. So you're mentioning that so let me log out so I can test that. Because this looks perfect to me. So I'll log out. And then you're mentioning that the register button is acting like login. Okay. So, I think I know where that is. Let's go to the settings page. Let's take a look at the on login and the on register. Here's our login. Here's our register. Oh, here it is. So this one's correct because that's creating a user. But this one down here, the login, this should actually be the sign in rather than create user. If we look in the Firebase API, like down in the bottom, we've got two. We need this one. Yeah, so let me copy that and let's go back to the on login. Right in the settings page, here we go. So here's the on login. So let's change this. There we go. I bet you that's gonna work. So give that a try. It's your line 168. I'll keep this open for a second in case you need to see it. So you just want to update your call to the Firebase API and make it sign in with email password. Oh, and let's take a look at Mr. Sean here for a second. Oh, good. So no errors over here. Let's check the console. This looks good. I can see the little user object is making its way where it needs to. Let me go to the login area. Field is not defined in the setting form. Maybe. Let's take a look and let's go to the setting form. Fields. Now technically you are right though, because it is just one field. So why don't I just remove the S off of there, and then I think you're golden. Yeah, totally good. Very good, very good. And you've got a couple of other little things going on in here. Let me take a quick look while I'm in here. Oh, you know what? You do not have the you don't have the latest little stuff in there. We want to make this stuff disappear, right? Yeah. All right. Okay, let's take a quick look in your login form here, and let's see if we can fix that out. Help me out with this, guys. I'm pretty sure we can get this straightened up. Is it a login form? Is that it? Or register login form?
Register.
Yeah, let's look for that. Here we go. Okay, let's take a look here. So we've got the fields. And so the first thing that I think you probably want to do is move those two buttons, these guys right here. Take them out of here, and let's move them up in here. Because they should only be appearing when those two input fields are there. Now that should straighten up that one. Let's take a look. Yep, yeah, getting better. And you do have the username down there, so that's good. And then you've got a heading here. Yeah, I think you're okay. I think you're okay here. I think it's just your styles that are causing these alignment issues here, but your code is all right. So here, it's fields, and it's fields here as well. And then down here, it's fields. So that's okay. I feel like I want to get rid of this, here's the login form. You know what I mean? Because like, yeah, by now, it's pretty obvious. So let's go there. Okay, so that's shaping up. So it is all there, all the stuff you need right now. You'll just have to work on your CSS for the alignment. Yeah.
I'm just trying to get the function up now.
Yep, yep, that's cool. Do you want a fork of this, John?
Yeah.
All right. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Need some coding theme music here. Boom. There we go. So did you get that working, Julie? No? Let's take a look. I think this one. Let me refresh. Reloaded. So we're looking in the register login form. There we go. Okay, so inside your settings page, you're going to the on login right here. Yeah, this looks good. So you're saying that's not working? Oh, okay, let's try it. I'll go to the login. And so let me make a new one just so I can test this. So I'll say like new Tim at tim.com. Make a password. So I'll register. Great. So now let me log out. So now I know that I'm registered. So let me try login instead. New Tim at tim.com. This time I will log in. Firebase API sign in with email and password is, I know what it is. I know what it is. There's a small typo in your Firebase API, and I'm really sorry. I didn't tell you. I just want to see if you'll catch it. I'm a bit of a jerk, but we're at lab 10, right? I have to be more jerky. So if you go to your Firebase API at the bottom here and look at the spelling, Firebase API. Let's see, right here, uh-oh, you have an extra little letter E. You see that one? Yeah. So it's sign in with email and password. So now let me try it again. And I think it will probably work. new Tim at tim.com. Oop. Login. Hey. Okay. And then who else? So Sean's good. It was Julie. Oh, what about Julene? Carla Julene. Did you get that working? Drop a note in the chat window there, Julene, if you are all good there. I think you probably are. That was a pretty simple little fix to do. Great. Okay, so we're ready to wire this up. So guys, what do we need to do? Think about how we hooked up the login form. What kind of things we need here? Leonardo was mentioning we need to know about changes on this field here. So we're going to need like a little on change in that input, and then we're going to need a callback function that we call when those changes happen. So we'll put the callback probably in the settings page, because the settings page is the one that can talk to Firebase, right? So that would be a good place for it. What about this button here? What do we want to listen for on the button?
On click.
Yeah, click.
Listen to on like update or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll need probably 2 callbacks in here. So let's get started with those. Go to your settings page, and we'll put it where we've done the other callbacks in here. We'll need to give them a couple of good names here. So let me head to my settings page, and we'll get started with those callbacks. There we go. There we go. Oh yeah, I just got to expand it here. Alrighty. So here's where we have some callbacks. There's our login, there's our register. Let's add a couple more. So what should we call this? I'll call it like on user info update. And I'll put a little note for myself. Callback for changes like user name. So that's the one I'm going to hook up to the onChange. I'm going to need one more that will be for the button. Callback for submitting changes to user name. This one I'll call like on user info submit. That's a good one. I smell like cookies or something. Do you guys smell that? Maybe I'm just hungry. I swear, I smell cookies. If one of you guys are holding out. Okay, when we make a callback function, don't forget that we need to do that binding stuff. See how we did it up here? So let's make 2 bindings for those as well. So we're going to say this dot on user info update equals this dot on user info update. But now we bind it to this. And you can probably guess it's going to be pretty much the same process for that second one. So this is the on user info submit. On user info submit and bind it to the class. Boom. Now I would suggest before we do anything else, let's test. We'll put some console logs in those callbacks and just make sure that we are wiring them up okay. So let me throw a little console log action in here. And I'll put one in here as well. So these are ready to go. Do you guys think you could get those callbacks wired up to the right places in that little form right now? If you can, you know, that would be a very good skill. What do I need to do? Well, step one, I'm going to have to make a couple new props, right? Because I have to give those callbacks to the children of the settings page. So that would be the first place to start with it. See if you can make the prop. Where will you need to go to make those two props? Well, props can only be added to a component, and components can only be created inside the render function. So look for your render, and look for your registration login form. It's going to need 2 more props for these callbacks. Did that make sense what I just said? Kind of? If it kind of made sense, that's awesome. Because it means you can talk about components in React. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of a big deal. I have a friend who's like a longtime developer, and he hit me on Facebook the other day. He was asking for a recommendation for some developer. He needs to get some work done. And you know, he's been developing quite a long time. I used to work with him in like 2003, and he doesn't know React. You know what I mean? Like, I started mentioning a couple of things about components and so forth. He wants to know what you guys are learning right now. He was like, oh man, I really need to get on that stuff. So like, if you know the language of React, when I say, you know, smart component or dumb component, and you've kind of got an idea what I'm talking about, you've got a leg up already on a lot of people who just don't know that stuff. It is well worth spending a bit of time on. So this is a very typical task you would get, right? If I'm the lead developer and I hand you this and I say, oh, can you hook up these callbacks? You want to know how to do that, right? So give it a go. Give it a try right now. Anybody get it yet? This is a nice little test of your knowledge here. Let me go to step 1 here. So I've got a couple of callbacks. They are bound right here. If I was trying to figure this out, what I might do is look at these other ones here, because I know they're already hooked up, right? Hey dude, can you? Yeah, thanks. I think one of them had cookies. It's driving me crazy. All right, so when I look right here, thank you. When I look right here, I know that these guys are already hooked up, right? So if I go to the same place where these were hooked up, I'll be able to hook up these 2 new ones I've created. So if I go down here, I'm looking to the render where my register login form is, and there's all those callbacks, right? So let me add it into there. Let's see, what did I call it? I've got my on user info update. Let me make a prop for that one first. Right down here. I'll go to the end the order of these props doesn't really matter. You just have to make sure you get the syntax okay. There we go. There's my first callback. What about my second one? What do we call it? Info submit. So let me copy that one. We'll make a little prop for that one as well.
Why, just one question.
Yeah, shoot.
Why isn't it this dot props dot user equality?
Yeah, compared to the other, the registered.
You're one step ahead. Because these let me rephrase. These guys, they're created right inside this class here. But the other ones, like this props, came from one step above. Those ones came from the app. Yeah. That's a very good question. Now that'll create the prop. That'll get those callbacks into the register login form. So let's go down to that guy. So register login form. So here's its props. So it's receiving all that stuff. Now we need to hook it up. So for instance, we've got this button, this update button right here. Well, now that we've got some props here, we could go into that button and we could add in the on click. Yes, I hear you. That is exactly right. So now, yeah, we need to go into the props and we look for the, let's see, what did we call it? So this is the button. There we go. That's the one. So as a little side note, guys, the number one thing that will mix you up with this stuff is like typos in your props, because that's a really hard thing to catch, right? So you might want to get in the habit of actually copy pasting your props here. It'll save you. So I'm going to copy that on user info submit. And then I'll go back to my button right here, stick it in here, close my little curly brace. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I should be able to test that now. Let's try. So here we go. I'm going to hit my, oh, you know what? Just before I hit this, I think I forgot to do something. Watch carefully. Everybody watch as I hit this. Page refreshed. Exactly. I heard you, Nancy, say it. I forgot to put in that little prevent default. So let's go back to that little callback that we created in the settings page. Here we go. This one right here. So we have to say event.prevent default. Otherwise, that's really going to mess us up.
On user info submit.
Yeah. Now in a second, we're also going to wire up the change events for the text field there. But let me see if that fixed my problem.
Hey, mine's good. Here. Tim, mine's gone now.
Gone?
It's disappeared.
All right.
Event dot prevent default.
Yeah, with a capital D.
Capital E for event?
D. Yeah. And then make sure that event matches the spelling here. Okay. Any errors showing in your console?
I'm just gonna try to open it again. Okay, it's back.
Cool. Oh, good. Julian's all set. Yeah, so we're all doing pretty good here.
I just added to the chart.
Oh, yeah, let's take a look. Alrighty, let's take a quick look at what Nancy's got going on. I'm going to close a couple of these others because those guys are all good. And,
Cannot get into my login.
okay. Then I'm going to guess there's probably an error showing somewhere in here. Let's check it out. Man, this is a nice font, eh? What is that? What am I looking at?
Railway, maybe? No, I think it's railway.
That's interesting. I wonder if it got into the wrong place. Let's take a look. Why am I in full view here?
Oh, I submitted it from full view, then I changed back to editor.
Ah ha ha. I think if I just do this. No. Can you send me the editor one?
Yes, of course.
Casey, are you okay there?
Yeah, my thing wasn't showing up, but now it seems to be.
Okay, then I'll just close this one up.
And in console, it says my text field was updated, but it doesn't really look any different.
Right. Oh, it said the text field's updated? Then I think you might have wired the button to the wrong callback. Because you want to wire it to the one that's going to submit. Might want to double check that one. We'll take a look. Okay, let's see if we've got any weirdness showing up here. This all looks good. We're all seeing everything we need. I'll go to the login. Prevent default is not a function. Okay, let's find that. So that's going to be in the settings page.
I just added that change, so.
Yeah, it's whatever we just did. Let's take a look. So,
394? 395.295?
this looks pretty good to me right here. Let's see, what's it saying? In the on user info submit. This looks okay to me. Do you guys see any problem with this one? So we've got event right here. We've got event prevent default. This looks pretty good. I mean, it's the same as what we've done down here. Is everything closed? Yeah, it looks like it. That looks okay.
Wait, I'm gonna remove the prevent default that I just added and see if it comes back.
Yeah, see what happens. It looks like
It comes back, the prevent default is what's doing it.
there's no typo in there, is there? Am I crazy?
PREVENT default. I copied it from the other one. It probably is a typo, but I can't see it.
I don't see it either. Wow.
Yeah, it's gone. That is even value.
No, I'm getting the error there. What? This is freaking me out. I'm looking at the binding, if there was anything weird there, but... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, geez.
Jeez.
Oh,
It is
Jiminy crackers.
killing me. Yes.
Let's try that.
Cookies on the mind.
That was a tricky one.
Yes, that's it.
You tested the brain. Yeah, there we go.
Awesome.
Now, while we're here, why don't we try test that button? And that's all good.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
very good. Okay. So, did anybody wire up the change events on the text field yet?
Yes,
You
now
got
it's
it?
on the right one.
Ah,
For the event info updates, we don't use this one, right? But I'm confusing.
oh, we're going to. Yeah, yeah. So next, my challenge to you is when the person types in here, we want to call our other callback, the info update. Can you hook that up? Yeah, when they're typing in there. Did anybody get it? So it's not going to be a click, is it? Might want to take a look at your other input text fields and see how you handled it.
Username. Change on change. This is for that input. Because then I keep on changing this. How do I know? But there's something.
When you type, it should call the callback and you'll see the console log. Is that bad news?
No, that's just my thinking face.
Yeah, because if you look at the callback, right now, we should see this little message if it's being called. It won't tell us what we typed yet, but we'll do that next.
Username, okay, on call, on change. Props.
Oh, I had the magic word there. So we're not listening for on click. We're listening for the on change, right?
Change that? What are we putting here?
One, probably, update user
Okay.
info update.
On user info update,
Not sure.
whatever we called it?
I think that's it. Isn't it?
On user,
On change.
oh, on user info update, yes.
This props on user info update.
This one has an extra step that we need to do. That's the trick,
It's always an
right?
extra step.
Yeah, I know, I'm being a bastard today. But this is the brain teaser here, right? Because if you think about it, our update button, it's right inside register login form, right? But this one is not. It's in settings form. So you've got one more prop you need to do. Yeah, that's the trick. In a second, I'm going to do it, but it's useful if you can think about it a little bit, see if you can get it going. Anybody get it?
Not the second step.
I know you are.
Oh,
Yeah.
and the registration one.
There's one little trick to it.
One here, and this one is just this dot, info user update, which we have here. Oh, on change?
Okay, I'm hearing everybody is like super close to it here. So step number one is like we're not listening for an on click, we're listening for an on change. Yeah. So we all know that. But the trick to it is this, guys. When we hooked up the update button, well, this button, if you look in it, like it's inside the register login form. So it can just call the callback right away. But this one's inside settings form. So this guy doesn't know about the callback yet. We need to use a prop to send that information from the register login form into the settings form. Yeah, so that's the only trick to it. So let's give that a try. Let's see here. So I'm going to go to my register login form. Let's take a look. So here's my register login form. And right down here is the settings form. But you can see like it has no props, right? So we need to give it some props. So I think it's going to look like this. Let's get the callback first of all. So in the settings page, here's our register login form. So which prop do I need, guys? Is it this one? Right, we need this other one. So let me copy this. And if I go back to my register login form, we know that that came in here with the props, which means down here in the settings form, and we're going to say this dot props dot okay? So we're passing that callback into the settings form here. Now we're free to use the callback. So let me go to the settings form. And right in here, now which one did we say we needed, guys? Was it like this? No, exactly. I think that should work. Oh, let me run it. Hey, look at that, guys. See my console? Team bought the million. If you get that working, that's kind of a big deal, because that means all our callbacks are hooked up. Do you know what comes after that? Sending it to Firebase. Yeah. Casey?
So if we see it, like as we typed into the callback.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's
Ah, nice. You were freaking me out there. It's working? Question mark. I always think of, you seen the movie Anchorman? When they like change his teleprompter and he's like, I'm Ron Burgundy? Because they put like a question mark on it. Oh my God. Great movie. Who's got it? Who's got that little message showing up? So at this point, we've got both these guys working here. all we got to do is grab the information from there and send it off to Firebase. That's our next step.
Oh, no, it is for the settings part? Yes.
Did you get it, Julie? Is it showing? Nice. Did you get a key? You want me to take a look? Yeah, you want to send it to me? Let's take a look. Let's do a quickie. Oh, wait. Are you okay, Nancy? I can't remember if we.
Yes, I am.
Okay, cool. And then with me, 77 is this Yuki? Okay, let's take a look. Okay, no errors up here. Let's bring up our console. That looks good. It knows that I'm not logged in, so I might have to log in here. Let me try. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's see if I remember. Hey, you know what I like here? Do you guys notice like this little validation stuff happening? That's pretty nice, right? Like it knows this isn't valid right now. How did you do that? Is that like HTML5? Oh, in the CSS. Sweet. You guys might want to take a look at that if you want to have this nice coloring here. I really like that. So let's try. I think that's my password. Login. Yes, good. Okay. So let's test a couple things. Here's my update button. Oh, do you know what it was? The prevent default is not in there yet. When I saw that refresh like that, that tells me that's missing. So let's go to the settings page. Here we go. And then we've got the, well, it is in there. So it kind of makes me think that maybe there's a problem with our prop. So let's check the props here. So we've got on user info submit. And let's see, is the binding here? Yeah, it looks like it. That looks okay to me. Yep. Oop. Yep, that looks fine. So then let's look at the prop in our render down here. So here's our render. Oh, haha. I think it's not in here. See this one right here? We need to do something like, you know what I mean? Because this is going to give that callback function into this form here. So then let's take a look at the register login form, which is right here. And then inside, we have this button right here. And then the onClick goes to this props. And let's make sure that spelling is good. Ah, that's it. You had it pointed at the other callback function. I think this should work now. So let me give it a try. Update. Yes. You see how it says you're submitting user info. So the only change we made was right in your settings page right here. You need to give it the prop. And then everything's cool. Now while we're here, we should probably give it the other prop that it needs too, right? Because we have two callbacks. So let's see, we did this one. Now we need to do this one. So right in here, let's do this. There we go. Let's test our little text field now. Perfect. Yeah, you were like 95% perfect. So if you just add those two, I'll keep this open in case you need it. Yeah, but it's just those two little things. Okay, guys. We're almost ready to send this off to Firebase here. We've got a function that knows when we hit the update button. So all we have to do is go in that callback and get the information that they've typed in here so that we can send it off to Firebase. That as well, we've already done at least one time in the register login form. So let's do it. So in my settings form, or my settings page, I'm going to look for the right callback. So here's my user info update. Here's my user info submit. So let's make a little addition to the user info update first of all. So this one gets called every time the person is typing something. That's a good place for us to save the information about what they just typed. So it's going to look like this.
And you can add a prevent default there. Right?
I don't think we need to in this case. Just because, well, the default behavior of an on change doesn't really do much. It's submit buttons that have that weird behavior. But like, well, you know what? There are times when you would be right. If I was making a game, for instance, and I'm detecting keyboard events, like I want to prevent the default because I'm not trying to update the text field in there. I'm just trying to detect the key press, right? So there are lots of times when that would be the case. Just totally not this time. So let's do this. We're going to go to the state. Sorry, set state. Pardon me, we have to call set state. Yeah. Then we can get the event target name and give it a value of the event target value. So just to refresh your memory, how does this work? Well, let's look at that input field one more time. Let's go to our settings form and just kind of remind ourselves how this works. So here's my input. That input becomes the event.target. So when we say event.target.name, we're actually getting this value right here, username. And then event target value is whatever they've been typing. So we're basically saying make username whatever they've typed. That's the end result of it. Does that make sense, guys? It's a nice way of doing it. It's very flexible because like I could put more inputs in here, and as long as they each have a name, I can send all of that information off to Firebase now. Pretty cool. All right, so let's head back up there. Back up to the settings page. Here we go. Now that takes care of the typing. Now, how about the submitting here? Well, before we go too far, before we try and talk to Firebase, let's just see if we're getting the right info. So let's log the state, actually. Okay, let's take a look. Exciting. I'm going to run it. I'll go to my settings area. I'm going to say, make me Timbot, and I'll just clear this so I can see what's up. I'll hit the update. Hey! You see that, guys? It knows I'm trying to submit, and it knows what I'm trying to submit right here. She's ready to go. We can send this to Firebase. Stoked. Let's do it. So we'll go back into our on-user info submit, and now we're going to see how we can actually put something into Firebase here. So we're going to open up Firebase and talk to the database. Makes sense, right? Now we get to say what collection that we want to talk to inside the database. So if you're used to a regular database, when I say collection, it's very similar to like a table, you know? So I'm going to say, let's talk to the users collection. But it's going to want to know which user we are talking about here. Okay? So I'm going to have to use this property called child. And you're exactly right. This is where that UID comes in. So let's do this. We'll say this.props.user.UID. Finally, we get to use that thing we set up in the very beginning. Yeah, Casey.
Is that going to affect things that we have in UIDs?
It will not. This is actually going to create, here, let me show you in Firebase here. This is actually going to create a whole new users collection for us, right here. So here, let me delete it for a second here, so you can see how this goes. Yeah, so it won't touch anything in the authentication area. It'll only be in the database, and it's going to actually make a new collection called users here. So this will be all fresh new stuff. Now we'll use that area to store any user information we want. So let's give it a try. Let me finish this one little line here. Okay, so I've identified the child by the UID. The last thing I need to do is call this little operation called set. This is how we actually set information in the database. So I'll say username. And what do I want to set it to? Well, let me go into the state and get the username. Right? So let's take a look at these two callbacks we've done here. As I'm typing, set state is putting whatever I've typed into the state. When I hit the submit button down here, we can go into the state to get it back out again.
Can I forward in one field, do you have to do it for the other field?
Actually, you would be able, so here's how that would work. Inside the info update here, you wouldn't have to change anything because it gets the name of your input right here and then saves the value. Yeah, so you can put as many as you want in there, And this will work for everything. Now down here, when you go to send it to Firebase, yeah, you would have to put a comment and then your other field. Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's a nice system, right? Because the first callback up here, it doesn't care. It'll just remember anything. But then when you submit it to Firebase, you can be a little more particular of what you want to submit. Yep. So if you had another one, like let's say it was like first name, and then you'd go like this dot state dot first name, and you could do as many as you want. Pretty nice, right? It's a good system. Now I'm going to test this. Everybody cross your fingers. Say a little prayer for Timmy. Let's give this a go. This is exciting stuff. So I'll go over here. Now keep an eye, everybody keep an eye on my Firebase console here. And let's see what happens. So boom. Hey! Mine is. Don't steal my thunder, Nancy. That was some passive aggression right there. But yeah, this should give hope because it does work. All right, shall we take a look at it? Why don't you give me a link, Nancy? Well, I mean, we've gone step by step, and all your steps up to this point are good, so I feel like we're going to nail it here. Yeah, Casey. Okay.
Are you doing anything else?
We will, so you're going to want to check later, because the only other thing we need to do is that when I come back to this page, I want to see whatever we saved in Firebase showing up in here. Yeah, so that little placeholder property, we're going to create a little piece of code to set the value of that. Yeah.
We just.
How much time do I have remaining, guys?
18?
All right. Then I'm going to hold off on debugging just to get this last little thing in place here. So here's what I mean by that. If I, for instance, refresh this page, and I go back to my login area here, you can see how it says pick name, but that's not what I want. I want it to say Timbot, right? Because I do have this in here already. So to do that, I'm going to have to create like a little loading function that will get that information out of Firebase and put it here in the placeholder. So let me hook that up. I'm going to go a little quicker just for a minute here. I'm going to close this data loader. I'll shrink some stuff just so it's a little easier to look at. Okay, so back in the settings page, just grab my notes here so I don't miss anything. Okay, I'm going to make a little function called load user data inside of here. So, load user data, just like that. Here we go. And then inside of here, I'm going to need user, the user information, so that I can actually load the specific user's info. And I'm going to open up that conversation with the Firebase database, just like that. And I'm going to go into the users collection, the one we just made there. And there we go. I'm going to get the UID. And here's how this is similar to when we made the our other data loader class. So this might look a little familiar.
So you created the load user data.
Yeah, so I'm making a little load user data here. And what we get back, we call it the snapshot. So whatever I get back, I'm going to put it in the state. In other words, put it in memory. Now, just as a little side note here, these two little vertical pipes, they stand for the word or. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, set the user to whatever you got from Firebase, but if you didn't get anything, just make it a little empty object here. Let me call this function to see if it works. In my constructor, I'm going to say if props.user this load user data and give it the props.user. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, like, if we got any user object from the props, so in other words, from the app component, then load in their user data from the user's collection here. That's the result. Let me give it a little test. I apologize, I'm going a little faster here, but I really want to get this little chunk done for you guys. You might have to do a little bit of extra after class just to look at what I'm doing here. And let's go here. Look at that. Got user data. Right? Where's that coming from? It's coming from right here. I can actually make this a little more useful. Let's look at what it got. Hey, look at that, guys. Got user data. Where's that coming from? Username Timbot. Well, let's look here. Username Timbot. Yeah. So that's coming from Firebase, right? That's awesome. So all we have to do is get that information into this component, and we'll be able to populate that inside of here. So we know how to do that, right? Props. If we want to send this from my settings page into that component, we're going to pass some props. Yeah. And what we're going to pass is this user from the state here. So let's head down to the render function right here. Here's our register login form. And we'll say user equals, and where am I going to get it from? This.state.user. Right there. Awesome. That will get the information into the register login form. So let's go to that guy. Register login form right here. And we're looking for the settings form right here. Let's give it the info. User equals this dot props dot user right here. Awesome. So finally, I can go to the settings form right here, and now I can use that props. I think that will work. Let me run it. What I'm hoping to see is that that's filled in with my username. Uh-oh. Oh gosh. Let's see. I think the settings form is okay. So let me go back to my, let's see. Oh, here we go. Settings page cannot read property user of null. Eh? All right, we can find that. Settings page cannot read property user of null. Okay, let me go to my settings page. I feel like I maybe didn't set something as a default. This state user. So right here, it's trying to pass this prop. I feel like I maybe did not set the default that I needed to. Right here. I do have a default value here. Let me run this again. Yeah, so we hit 2 errors there. Let's see. Cannot read property user of null at the settings page render. Cannot read property user of null. Let me get a little more console information in here. Oh, wait a minute. This is missing one line from a previous lab. This little initial state here, am I actually using it? I am not. That is what my problem is. I'm not actually setting that initial default value. Let me fix that. Wow. This was from a previous lab. Looks like this. This dot state equals object assign this dot initial state. What this does is it says make a copy of these default values and put them in the state. So this little thing I did here, remember earlier in the class, I was saying like yesterday I forgot to do that and it caused me some problems. Well, now I'm hitting the same problem because I actually was not using that initial state. I feel like this should fix it. Let me give it a run. If this works, we're in pretty good shape. Oh, so close. So close. I'm getting object. I think I know what it is. I need to actually say username in my settings form. Right here. I have to say props.user.username. Now I feel pretty confident. Boom. Beautiful. And I can change it, right? So I want to change my username. Now I want to be Mr. Sparkles. Update. And let's look in Firebase. Mr. Sparkle. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so let me pause because that is everything. That is fully working. So I went into warp mode at the point where I just wanted to see this showing me what my username was. Up to that point, you should be seeing, when you hit the update, like you should be seeing your username going into Firebase, right? If you're up to that point, everything I did after that was just to get it showing up inside of here. So if you've got it saving, that's pretty good. But if you can get it showing up in here as well, that's great. Yeah. So you might have to dig through the class example a little bit just to see what I did there, because I know I had to go a little bit fast with it. Yeah. But question, who can see their thing in Firebase? You got it? You got it? Kosar, did you get it? Sean? Okay. So you guys have a little bit of work to do. Yeah.
But it'll already be there. So you mean if you were to refresh the page, it would occupy that space?
Yes.
With sparkles?
Yes.
Let's see. No, and now it went, it deleted. It changed from button to input now.
You have a bug.
Oh,
I see this in your console.
cannot read
Yep.
username undefined.
Yeah. So that gives you a hint of what your bug is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to figure it out. I'm stressed out right now.
We did a fair amount of steps today.
You got this one step. You did this first, right? You did this second.
Yes.
You did this first. Then second, what did you do?
Yep, that looks good. Go up a little bit. And do you have the load data function?
Load data.
Add into the database. So this is
Yeah, load user data. Yeah, that looks great. And it sets the state. That looks good. And then this looks good also. That's great. Go up a little bit. Just a little bit. And then you got this. This all looks pretty good to me. Yeah. So what happens if you now try it, if you go to your login area? Was there any bug? There is some bug. Here, copy it, send it to me. Let's do a quick debug. Oh, really? Okay. Oh, okay, okay. Oh man, the helplines are lighting up here. Let's see, where were we? I think probably it starts here. Let me take a look at Julie here. I mean, I'll keep working until somebody comes. If someone comes, then I gotta quickly leave. But I brought my cart for a quick getaway, right? So we can go a little longer here. Let's take a look at what Julie's got. Oh, right here, this should be capital O. Yeah, and I think that's in the settings page. So let me go there. Right, that's in the new stuff we did. Let's see, right here, object assign needs capital O. There. Okay, so now let's give it a try. I will go to login. Now, just when I'm looking in your console, my eye has picked up something. I wonder about this because there's 2 E's. Maybe a problem, but maybe not. If you are consistent about using 2 E's, but let's check. So right now, it doesn't look like it's trying to load the data from Firebase, and I think it's because of that 2 E's here. Let's take a look. In the constructor, aha! So you see it doesn't match? So let me try this. I'll just put in 2 E's here. And then that means I have to put 2 E's here. Let's see. Oh, typo on console. Console. So we go to login. Hey, look at that. Got the user data. So that means it talked to Firebase right here. And it got the user data. Let's look at the user data just to make sure. So anybody who's having trouble, hopefully you're watching. Uh-oh. And that's it. Okay, Julie, did you catch that? Let me send you this fork. Quickly. The clock has run out. This one's for Julie. Boom, boom, and we're out. You guys on the stream? I'm getting the boot.